Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Cup Duet Reviews. My name is Jillian Robinson. I am the Associate Artistic Producer here at Cup of Hemlock Theatre. And today I am joined by a wonderful new reviewer, a dear friend of mine, an actor, singer, dancer. She does it all, Marie Doucette. Marie, how you
Hello,
doing?
I'm good. Doing wonderful on this Saturday morning.
Yes, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to have you on this episode.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So Marie and I had the ultimate privilege of seeing Summer Dances, a mixed bill at the Art Shelter. This is a production put on by Frog in Hand, which is a collective dance company that now has its new home at the Art Shelter in Mississauga. It's super awesome that we have Marie here because Marie is a dancer, has a dance background. And anybody who has watched previous Cup episodes, I do love me a dance performance myself too. So I know today's discussion and conversation is going to be super rich. Great. So before we dive fully in, let's do our icebreaker. Marie, what are you sipping with us today?
Oh, today I kind of have a basic answer, just some water, but in
In America.
a Marie cup, so it's kind of iconic.
We love it. We love it. That is my favorite mug. Marie is my favorite Disney character. Great. I am sipping on, it is a Saturday morning, so I do have my cup of Joe, some coffee in my The cup, hazelnut flavored. And then I also have some cranberry juice going on here. Kind of matches my outfit, my ensemble today. So great. We've got all the beverages. We're ready
Yeah,
to dive in.
let's do it.
Yeah. So Summer Dances is exactly what the subtitle is, a mixed bill. So basically, I'll map out kind of what the evening entailed. So Marie and I showed up at the Art Shelter, which is a lovely rural outdoor setting in Mississauga, sort of like in like a field, kind of like in the middle of nowhere. This oasis of art is what the Art Shelter is. So we'll get into talking about how the sort of ambiance and atmosphere certainly impacted our experience too. But basically, the show was 50 minutes and it was composed of original dance works, some ensemble work, some duet work, some solo works. And we had three pieces, an intermission, and then another three pieces. And that sort of rounded out a beautiful summer evening of new dance work. So throughout the episode, Marie and I are going to kind of highlight elements that inspired and impacted our experience. Yeah, so it was a collective, it was an ensemble that sort of kind of weaved in and out of each dance piece. It was emceed and yeah, just a beautiful collection of dance works that I'm like, we need to do this more. I feel like more companies need to create a platform to showcase this work. Yeah, Marie, I guess like overall, what was your sort of vibe on the
Oh my
experience?
gosh, the vibes there are wonderful. I think everyone should go check out that space.
Mhm.
Truly, from like the little hike up from the parking lot to like the frog pillows on the benches, even the atmosphere with like the weather and the sunset. And their evening, something that they did very well is they very strategically planned their itinerary, I guess. And it kind of matched what the sun was doing. So the beginning of the evening was very like, party, party, let's go. And that's when the sun was out, the sun was setting, the
Mhm.
vibes were vibing, everything was there. And then as the sun set, the dances started to become darker or have like deeper meaning. And that was very apparent, very obvious, and done very, very well.
Definitely. And every piece, and I guess Marie, as our dancer in the conversation, every piece was like contemporary dance infused. Am I right in
Mhm.
saying that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like some of the vibes were a bit peppier, and then some of the pieces were a bit more like melancholic and sustained. But from a observer's point of view, I feel like contemporary dance sort of was the main ingredient.
Yeah, I would agree that. I'd say
Okay.
I would say contemporary dance, maybe other flavors added, but
Yeah.
definitely contemporary dance at the root of it.
Great. So Summer Dances, a mixed bill, is happening at the Art Shelter July 11th, 12th, and 13th. And then the second weekend, which if you're listening to this episode, you will have the opportunity to go to July 18th, 19th, and 20th. And so Marie and I went on opening night on the 11th, and we saw, like I said, the 6 pieces that were in the program for that weekend. And what's super neat is this following weekend, their last weekend of shows, they do have some of the similar dances that Marie and I would have seen, but they also have other new ones that Marie and I didn't get a chance to see sprinkled into their program. So quite literally going back to a mixed bill, it's lovely. They're providing kind of more opportunities for more dances. So I guess if you're listening to this episode and you get a chance to catch the second weekend, pop in the comments and let us know, like, of the pieces that maybe Marie and I don't talk about today that you saw, and let us know your experience with that. Cool. Okay, I kind of want to start, Marie, you kind of nodded to the, the hike up the path to the space. I want to kind of start with like talking about the atmosphere. Like, just wow, frog in hand. Like the minute we sort of walked up, there was like a dirt road, a stoned road. There's like the beautiful like dome, sort of weather dependent dome space that they have there, and like this sort of boxcar mural setting. All of the sort of benches were littered with pillows that had frog images on them. And then our pre-show was a phenomenal violinist that was just kind of sitting at the edge of the stage with some frog statues beside us. And yeah, like Marie was saying, the sun was setting. It just was, I literally felt like we were walking into frog in hand. Like the space was really welcoming us into this like warm, natural, yeah, like accepting space. I'm kind of rambling here, but I don't know if you want to add anything to the
Yeah, it was a very
ambiance.
grounding space. Like
Yeah.
the minute you hiked up that hill, you were like, wow, I feel at peace. And even like Frog in Hand did an amazing job with all the details, to like the
Mhm.
frog pillows, even to the snacks. They have frog gummy snacks. Like
Yeah.
everything was on brand, everything was on theme. It was very, very good.
Yeah. And like the play space, like where all of our dances happened, was just like your standard sort of like put up, tear down, like almost like festival stage. So it was just like a flat black, like almost like the floor of a black box, if you will. So that was like a lovely sort of just like yeah, this is like our lily pad essentially that's going to house
Yeah.
all of our pieces. And I think also to the artists, the way that they navigated that space was brilliant. Like a lot of the times we would have our choreographer introduce the piece, and then they would exit the stage but stand off on the perimeter and sort of watch their work as the artists sort of get on the stage. And then a lot of the works too were having the artists like purposefully come off the space and re-enter. And I just thought, yeah, they navigated frog in hand, navigated that entire space beautifully.
Yeah. And even, yeah, like you were saying, down to the like Marley floored riser.
Mhm.
It's not very tall. It's not a very tall riser. It's very like it's maybe, I don't know, 2 feet, maybe three.
Yeah.
I don't even think that, probably like 1 foot. So it kind of feels like they're dancing with you and not at you.
Yeah.
And I know sometimes when you go to shows, it can feel like everything's being thrown at you, where that was kind of, it was more intimate. It felt more like they
Definitely.
were one with us.
Definitely. Yeah. And speaking one with us, I feel like some of the themes that these pieces sort of brought to the forefront. This is also like a weird brain hot take for me. I've watched the series Station 11, so I have kind of like post-apocalyptic, also like Canadiana in my brain. And I felt like some of the vibes that were conjuring up inside of me watching this whole mixed bill were giving like post-apocalyptic or even like
Yeah.
post-pandemic feeling, because a lot of the pieces that, again, because we know, Marie and I know that folks will have the opportunity to see some similar pieces this weekend, but also some new ones. I'll just generally talk about some of the themes. So like a lot of these pieces had to do with communication or lack of communication in relationships, had to do with the idea of home and like what does it mean to you and what does it mean to a collective. There's even a piece that went as macro of mapping out this history of the world and society. So a lot of these like big concepts that like since the dawn of time human beings have been thinking about, but I definitely think living in a post-pandemic world and with a lot of like apocalyptic pieces of art surrounding us right now, it really like has us sit in these sort of big concepts, and that's all sort of painted out for us via contemporary dance works. Yeah, I don't know if Marie, if you want to touch a little bit on like the
Yeah.
themes and stuff.
No, like I agree. And I think something that Frog and Hand did very well is I think we've kind of reached a point where as a society, we're like, okay, COVID happened, great. We're trying to move on from it. And sometimes I find there are theater companies out there that don't want to like touch on the pandemic topic at all and kind of just wants to ignore it. Where this was kind of like you were able to experience what you wanted to experience as the audience. So us, we went there, we saw that as like pandemic, but it's possible that's what was related to us and not
Yep,
necessarily everyone else would view it that way. And I think, yeah, and you talked a lot about like relationships and communication. And I know like that's a big part of our lives. And
yep,
that was like kind of what you related to. And you definitely could feel that the rest of the audience also were feeling things as well. There were definitely
definitely.
some tear sheds, my friends. Tears were shed.
Definitely. And I just want to go back to what you were saying too. It really did feel like they were dancing with us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it really, like, having each piece introduced by the choreographer really allowed that breathing space of like, okay, you've seen this piece of work and now we're taking a second and then we're going to go into the next one. It really was like carving out the italicized human experience. Like it was really kind of
Yes.
weaving us in and out. And it really allowed there to feel like there was that collective, like each piece felt like it was part of the same show and we were collectively sitting in that 50 minutes, but having it emptied and cycling through with these breathing moments allowed each piece to individually exist at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that I feel like is something we've learned like post pandemic too, of how important it is to have our individuality, but also to have it woven into a community. Like,
Yeah. And you said something about the human experience. And I think that actually is like the perfect word to sum up what the dance show was and what Frog and
yeah,
Hand did is they really relayed the human experience. And the experience was very human, it was very grounded, it was very even the numbers that were more like fun and a little silly and quirky, they were still at the root of it,
yeah.
very, very human. And I think that is important to note.
Yeah, I feel like the whole, I know like one piece in particular was specifically about like showcasing the history of the world and society, but I feel like the
Mm-hmm.
whole night sort of, if we had like a society stew, each dance piece was an ingredient for that. Like,
Yes.
or like
Yeah.
have like a humanity stew. Each
Yeah.
piece kind of gave us something to add to that. Yeah. I think also to add in what augmented my experience, and I know we chatted a little bit after the show about this, Marie, but is the costuming. I thought it
Mm-hmm.
was so cleverly done. Again, I've talked a lot about this on the podcast too, but like the elements of theatricality that can just like magnify, already artistic brilliance, like actor brilliance. We love a good costume, we love a good soundscape, we love a good environment, ambiance. So yeah, so the costuming just like I guess some specifics I'll go into there, like the piece that was about like the history of the world and society. This was choreographed by Brie Clark, who is a dear friend of mine, has also been on the Cup. Everyone was donning black except their sock color. Their sock colors was like a color of the rainbow, but like the ones that had to kind of be ocean creatures or like dinosaurs or like meteors, like the color of their sock kind of matched what element of the earth that they were like evoking. I noticed that. And I was like, that's just some sort of specificity in costuming, like
Mm-hmm.
down to like the feet, like the grounded aspects of the human. Like I just thought it was, yeah, it was, it's such
Yeah,
a
no,
specific detail, but it was really lovely. Yeah.
no, the color socks. Yeah, at the beginning when they all walked out and they were all wearing black. And a little fun fact about Marie is I usually like hate when I watch dance numbers that the socks aren't matching or like they're not black or they're not uniform. Like in my head, I'm like, why? So
Yeah.
then I started and I was like, why do they have like different colored socks? Then as the number progressed, I went, wait, the socks have meaning. The socks have
Yeah.
meaning. The sun, the socks were
Yeah.
yellow.
Yeah.
And that once that clicked,
Yeah.
I bought it. I was so into it. I was obsessed. I think that probably was one of the numbers, that was like the highlight of my evening.
Definitely. And I think once again, too, it's like that the subtle element of the different colored socks, again, was like, this is a collective, you know, group in blacks telling this story, but then each sock differing in color plays to the individuality of the characters that they were trying to exude, right? Like,
Yeah. And like the nice
yeah,
thing that I think every piece did that evening was every dancer got kind of a showcase moment throughout
definitely.
the evening. Like you could definitely tell that was something that's important to Frog in Hand. And everyone kind of had their moment to like shine or do something they were really good at. And that was very obvious and very, very apparent.
Definitely. Another costume element I want to map out was the solo piece where you had the individual wearing sort of like whites, but on the whites there was like lips. And the intro to that piece was like something about like a kiss that you never got, or like you're opening up a box of memories of like forgotten kisses. And then like the piece proceeded to be sort of like a physical, at least what I got from it, of like a physicalization of like the human lips. And I just loved that like the costume was like, okay, it's having us think about like kissing and lips or whatever, and then have the performer sort of like embody that.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the costuming. And then a lot of like some of the other pieces too just had like flowy, almost like earthy colors or tones. And again, it kind of just allowed us to again be reminded we were in this grounded space, or like these are neutral humans that are telling a story that can really inspire anybody who sees it. And again, it sort of gave that like post-apocalyptic costume palette where it's like earthy tones, khakis, especially I'm thinking of their final number, the fall excerpts.
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone had the same palette in like, but yeah, again, it's, I keep going back to it's collective but individual. Like, and
Yeah.
that's the heartbeat of this piece for sure.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, it's collective, but it's also individual. I think that is like very relevant and very important. And I think very important, not just like in regards to this piece, but also like the world. Like we're
Yep,
all living in the same world, but at the end of the day, we all have to be our best individual selves.
totally. Wow, you mentioning that too makes me want to just talk really quickly too about the Please Hold number that was choreographed and performed by Colleen Snell, who is the artistic director of Frog in Hand, and Ryan Lee. This was the one of the duets that we saw, and it's basically like two individuals trying to communicate and like finding chunks of communication, but also like repelling from each other, like being magnets to each other. It was a lot of contact improv, again, contemporary heartbeat. The soundscape of that was sort of like Houston, we have a problem. Like it was kind of like out in space, like outer space. Yeah. So again, like you're placed in communication with a human being, and you're your own individual self and they're their own individual selves, and you both have your own individual struggles. And like, how do you come together as a perfect duo? How do you not? Is it the right choice for you to come together? Is it not? Like, I just remember looking at you after that piece in particular, Marie, being like, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
like this is resonating with us like individually so much right now. Gosh, I love dance because just like any type of physical performance where there's no song and there's no uttering of the voice, we have to observe with our eyes and are taken over with sound, i.e., music,
Mm-hmm.
and have to create the stories ourselves too. Like there's just like a deeper connection. It sounds like
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And like something that like the Frog and Hand dancers did very, very well. They're very, very good dancers, but also phenomenal storytellers as well.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
very, very good storytellers. And that was very apparent. And every story was clear. Every story
yeah.
was clear. And I have experienced sometimes in the past where like if you're viewing a dance piece and the story's not clear, then
Mm-hmm.
in your head, you're just like, oh, I viewed a pretty dance. I watched a pretty dance. That was beautiful. But
Yeah.
all of the stories were clear. All of the dancers were amazing at telling the story. And I think
Yep.
that is why the audience was able to resonate with a lot of the pieces.
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of multifaceted performers
Mhm.
on that stage. For sure. And again, I know I mentioned this earlier, but the art shelter, the space that we're at, this was the first performance at this official
Mhm.
space for Frog in Hand. So big shout out to Colleen Snell and the entire team of Frog in Hand for, you know, sinking your roots into the art shelter. It is such a phenomenal space, and it is in Mississauga, but the Go Long Branch is just right up the road. So it certainly is accessible. And literally at the end of the night, Marie and I were like, to come out to see this. Like, you need to
Yeah.
experience this particular show, Summer Dances for sure, but also just like experience the art shelter space, experience Frog in Hand in this space. It really did feel like a lovely oasis and breakaway from the city
Yeah.
at this time of year. It was like the perfect summer night hangout
Yeah, no, I
experience.
agree with that. I think absolutely everyone should go see this show. It's a phenomenal show, very, very well done.
Yeah.
But also the space is very grounding. And if you're someone that kind of gets overwhelmed being in the city all the time, it's a lovely little escape. It's a lovely, you feel you're kind of near the water.
Yep.
So you have that ambiance as well.
Mhm.
There's just like grass and it's very grounding. It's very calming.
I know, Marie, like you and I grew up in like rural areas of Canada too.
Hmm.
So like I even shared with you, I was like, whoa, I kind of feel like I'm home right now. Like I feel like this
Yeah.
is personally for me, like I grew up in a county in Ontario. So it did feel like a summer county night with the beautiful like pink sunset sky in the background.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm from Saskatchewan, in case
Hmm.
anyone wanted to know that. And yeah, definitely walking into a field, I was like, whoa, we've been here before. Been here before. This is deja vu. And very,
Yeah.
yeah.
I know too, Frog in Hand, they host artist dance jam
Mm,
sessions. So it's kind of like you can pop in. You don't have to be a dancer. You can be any form of artist. They have like visual artists, they have singers, they have dancers, obviously. And yeah, folks just it's kind of like a gym to just express.
right.
And at the end of the show, so this all happened outside, and then the sort of dome, which if anybody has kind of went on Frog in Hand's social media, like this sort of domed space that they have. The jam sessions happen in there. And we actually got an opportunity to kind of go inside of the dome
Yeah.
and vibe it out. So yeah, so totally looking forward to attending one of those jam sessions down the line and seeing what Frog in Hand has in store in their new space, which is
Yeah.
also all operated via solar panels. That's another thing.
Yes.
It is energy efficient, which is stunning. Like we love that in 2024. Okay, any final
Ooh.
wrap up thoughts, Marie?
Hmm. I think everyone should go see it. I
Everyone's got to go.
honestly think there's something for everyone in that show. And I
Yeah.
think from like, ages from 1 to 99, I think there is a piece or an aspect of it that you will be able to relate to and will resonate with you. And I think everyone should go see it. The dancers are amazing.
Yeah.
Go support them. They're phenomenal.
It really is like an artistic retreat away
Mhm.
from Toronto. Yeah, in a grounded space surrounded by magnetic individuals that just shine and exude brilliance all
Yeah.
around. Yes, so this is Summer Dances. It is a mixed bill happening at the Art Shelter, Frog in Hand. It ran from July 11, 12, 13th, and it is continually running July 18th, 19th, 20th. Hopefully, maybe it'll have an afterlife even after the 20th of July, but runtime is 50 minutes and it is, yeah, it's in Mississauga. Definitely treat yourself to a wonderful summer evening of
Yeah.
new dance works. Love it. Okay, great. On that note, if you are listening to this episode on Cup of Hemlock, wherever you get your podcast, like, share, subscribe. If you are watching this episode on YouTube, again, like, share, subscribe, get in the comments. Like I mentioned earlier, if you're seeing the second weekend and a piece that Marie and I didn't see, let's chat about it. Keep in dialogue and augmenting all these phenomenal artists that are surrounding our country. And on that note, I'll sign us out. we'll raise our little mugs and say cheers to being in community and also being individuals and dancing our way through the summer and this thing called life.
We love life.
Thank you so much for joining us, Marie. I'm sure we'll be seeing more of you down the line because we love your thoughts and your vibes. Yay.
Happy to be here. We'll be happy to be back.
Amazing. Cheers, everyone. Stay healthy, stay well, and we'll see you next time on The Cup.